Cameroon, like most countries in Africa, is plagued by the sad phenomenon of gender-based violence, GBVs. This cruel act is mostly perpetrated on women who still live amongst minority groups like the Mbororos, a nomad tribe in Cameroon, and the Bakas or Pygmies, who are said to be the original inhabitants of the rainforest. Vulnerable women like those who live with HIV/AIDS are not left out in this list. This rather disturbing issue has for the past years been giving sleepless nights to the powers that be. The government of Cameroon has since then waged an unending war against gender-based violence carried out on women. The Minister of Women's Empowerment and the Family decries this disheartening situation.
It is very sad that in 2021 we are still talking about gender-based violence, but we have to face the reality because worldwide you have special situations, and those special situations, conflicts, are well present in our country. And gender-based violence is a worldwide phenomenon, and in Cameroon it has been identified very well. And I do not need to describe the types of violence since you are well involved in all of them. What I can say is that around 30% of women, maybe a little bit more of women, have faced sexual violence between the ages of 15 and 49. And it is very sad that it is happening, but what I would like to say is that the head of state himself is considering violence on women as an incivility. He stated it in one of his speeches. And what is extremely important to know is that the Cameroonian Penal Code was revised in 2016. And the specific issues dealing with gender-based violence are now considered as offenses and sanctions. And the sanctions go from fines from 100,000 CFA franc to 1 million, and imprisonment from going up to 5 years.
This worry is the same shared by some partners in development like the United Nations Women. Its presence in Cameroon is an extra push to the government in this fight against gender-based violence.
Dans les champs du développement et de la lutte contre les pandémies, l'ONU met une emphase pour réduire les inégalités de genre.
Within the framework of development and the fight against pandemics, UN Women is out to curb gender inequality in the society. In the case of HIV and COVID-19, for instance, UN Women has put up a strategic plan to reduce gender-based violence on people living with HIV/AIDS. In this case, many entry points have been selected, one of which is the human economic empowerment. This is where we work with CAMYOSFOP to reduce the economic impact of COVID-19 and gender-based violence.
C'est dans ce cadre-là que nous avons travaillé avec CAMYOSFOP.
In order to apply government policies on the fight against gender-based violence on women, some non-governmental organizations have come in handy in the process. One of such organizations is the Cameroon Youth and Students Forum for Peace, CAMYOSFOP. This structure came into existence as a result of the decaying nature of our moral and traditional values, with a vision of restoring these values through human rights, peace, conflict resolution, and youth development. Her motto is peace, justice, and progress. Amongst CAMYOSFOP programs, the fight against gender-based violence, GBV, HIV/AIDS, and now COVID-19 has been primordial on her quest for a sustainable society. It is for this reason that CAMYOSFOP, during the past 10 years, with the government of Cameroon, through the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family, United Nations Women, Plan International and other development partners have been involved in engaging vulnerable groups of women in the center, east, west, littoral and southwest regions of Cameroon.
Engaging with rural communities and especially with vulnerable groups comes to fulfill part of our mission. And of course, one of the things we intend to do is seeing how to empower these communities to be able to stand on themselves. That's the more reason why we've been in these communities, building the capacities of groups in these communities and supporting them with startup businesses such that they should be able to improve on their livelihood. So on the basis of what we've done with them, we are supporting them with startup kits, either sewing machines or byproducts that could permit them to start up producing what they learned during the past 3 days here.
The global economic meltdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has had devastating effects on these vulnerable communities, especially on the women.
COVID-19 has really impoverished the general population, and as such it has created violence within family. You know, we had a long period of confinement. Children were not going to school. Commercial activities by women in the informal sector particularly were really slowed down, and as such the families were really blocked in, and when they are on a daily basis facing one another with little means, this is a way of inciting violence, and we have received several cases of women who were victims of violence.
In order to keep these women who belong to the above-mentioned vulnerable groups safe from the snare of this disease, CAMYOSFOP, with assistance from the UN Women, decided to empower these women. By empowering them, CAMYOSFOP chose a win-win approach. This means teaching them how to prevent the disease with the use of face masks, hand gels, washing of hands with soap and running water. These women were then schooled on how to produce these protective gears which they can sell and keep body and soul together.
If you look at the women we're working with, you realize that it's a particular group of women who are vulnerable, either in their communities, either in their families, or in their environment. And so the first thing is empowering these women in such a way that they should be able to stand by themselves. And that's why we decided that to better empower them is to do it economically by enabling them to be able to sustain their lives through the training that they went through here on how to produce savon or soap, how to produce eau de javel, how to produce menthol, how to produce face masks and other things that could enable them generate revenue for themselves. And just to say, these are a group of women we've been working with for the past 3 years. The Mbororo women, the Baka Pygmy women, and women living with HIV. So you can then understand what I mean by women who are vulnerable.
Staying quiet about gender-based violence and the stigmatization of persons living with HIV/AIDS means supporting this evil, and this issue needs to be addressed. This explains CAMYOSFOP and the UN Women's mission to fight against the stigmatization of HIV/AIDS and gender-based violence amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Awareness campaigns and capacity buildings are some of the tools used in this fight. The economic empowerment of these women through the project COVID-19 intervention within vulnerable women groups in the east and southwest regions of Cameroon is another equipment which has greatly bore fruits. This aims at increasing and enhancing the capacity of women to set up and manage COVID-19 induced businesses. These include the production of standardized reusable cloth barrier masks, antiseptic soaps, hydroalcoholic gel, hand sanitizers, camel water, and menthol. As a follow-up, CAMYOSFOP provides startup kits including sewing machines, some basic tailoring materials and chemicals for the production of the above-mentioned products, as well as seed funding for the implementation of their micro projects.
We started by supporting their micro projects, and the micro projects are doing very well. We went further, especially with the advent of the COVID, by training them on the production of soap, hand sanitizers, gel, and face masks, which could be used during this period of COVID, but equally which they could sell to their communities in order to make ends meet that could permit them to be able to sustain themselves.
Being an indispensable partner in their socioeconomic growth and emancipation, these women are grateful to CAMYOSFOP and the UN Women for enabling them become role models in the fight against the stigmatization of persons living with HIV/AIDS, as well as the fight against gender-based violence amid this period of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Vraiment, c'est un privilège pour nous d'avoir reçu tous ces kits et en plus, nous avons formés et nous ont encore remis le matériel pour pouvoir les fabriquer pour nous au quartier. Avec le kit qu'on a reçu, nous irons en communauté dans notre groupe fabriquer des savons que nous allons revendre. Les javels également et les menthols. Du moins, tout ce qu'on a pris ici, on va le refaire au quartier et revendre pour avoir de l'argent et pouvoir faire autre chose encore avec cet argent-là.
Impacting the lives of vulnerable women is a collective responsibility. These delicate groups are at high risk of being stigmatized if they contract HIV/AIDS and are faced with gender-based violence, especially during this period of the COVID-19 pandemic. Much needs to be done to break the chains of stigma, and CAMYOSFOP with the UN Women are out to build the capacities of these women through advocacies, empowerment, and financial support. A palpable example of this project on the field is with the women of the group Espoir Plus, who produce and sell face masks for the prevention of the COVID-19 pandemic at the Betwa Central Market.
On a vraiment eu les avantages, puisque en dehors d'ici, on continue les travaux à la maison, on libère facilement les clients. C'est vraiment un grand pouce. Et en ce moment, nous avons vraiment profité de l'apprentissage des cache-nez. Comme le 8 mars est dehors, on nous a passé quelques commandes et nous sommes sur ça.
Je remercie l'ONG pour tout ce qu'ils nous ont donné et ce qu'on a pu apprendre avec eux. Ça nous a encouragés, ça nous a poussé aussi à beaucoup travailler parce que pour dire vrai, les commandes sont énormes, on ne parvient même pas à s'en sortir, mais on s'en sort.
Another member of this same group has taken the lead in the production of camel water, popularly known as eau de javel in Cameroon. Today, she supplies to households in her neighborhood and plans on teaching other women too on how to produce and commercialize this product.
Depuis que je vends l'eau de javel, quand même, les petites tâches dont peut-être de 100 francs, 25 que je vais aller auprès de monsieur demander, je les résous facilement. Et je compte même aller plus que ça. Tous les ménages d'ici utilisent même déjà ça.
The Association of Mbororo Women in the subdivision of Manju in the East region are also happy beneficiaries of the CAMYOSFOP support program to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Grâce à ça, maintenant, je cours bien à la maison. Si seulement toujours à la maison, je cours, je gagne mes petites choses comme ça. Là. Donc, ça m'apporte un peu d'argent.
The dynamic Baka ladies of Mayos, a group of vulnerable girls from the biggest Pygmy community in the east region of Cameroon, have also been schooled on the production and sale of these anti-COVID-19 gears.
J'ai suivi une formation de Microsoft là-bas à Bertois. Ils nous ont appris comment fabriquer les gels, le savon, donc le menthol, pour nous permettre que les jeunes filles de progresser demain ou après-demain. Comment faire pour être autonome demain? Apprendre à fabriquer ça et aller fabriquer ça chez nous, aller vendre et avoir un peu d'argent pour survivre.
Since 2014, CAMYOSFOP has done a lot in strengthening the capacities of vulnerable groups and women living with HIV/AIDS on microfinance management and funding their micro projects alongside holistic services including psychosocial and financial support as well as legal assistance.
We are mindful of the fact that an unhealthy person can also be very unproductive. As such, we do provide psychosocial assistance to these communities, especially to survivors of gender-based violence. And in the meantime, we also provide free HIV screening as well as life skills, focus on reproductive health with a lot of emphasis on the prevention of sexually transmissible diseases. Considering that a community like Mayos do not have any health center, our services are usually highly appreciated.
Thanks to financial assistance and follow-up from CAMYOSFOP, the Association of Mbororo Women of Manjum were able to start up a catering business in their community.
Ça fait déjà un bon moment, au moins 6 mois, que nous faisons dans ce service traiteur. Et nous avons beaucoup appris et aussi beaucoup de demandes dans ce sens-là. On a déjà organisé plusieurs mariages, plusieurs événements et on a déjà ouvert aussi un compte bancaire. On épargne. On a beaucoup amélioré notre condition de vie en tant que femme Bororo.
Deep in the equatorial rainforest, a provision store in the Pygmy village of Mayos, sponsored by CAMYOSFOP, has become pivotal in the daily lives of the villagers.
Nous avons monté un micro-projet, donc nous avons fait une alimentation boutique, une alimentation qui fonctionne en bonne gérance et qui nous aide beaucoup. Nous fonctionnons en équipe de 10 filles. Ce micro-projet nous aide vraiment beaucoup parce qu'avec cela, nous pensons que nous pouvons aussi aider nos petites sœurs à être autonomes pour qu'on ne s'appuie pas toujours sur nos parents. Les jeunes filles de Mayos se sentent épanouies.
Nous sommes les filles dynamiques de Baka Mayos. Merci CAMYOSFOP, merci UNIFOP.
These projects highlight the power of a woman despite her status and focuses on the concept of leave no one behind. Engaging and empowering women in this light serves as a practical reminder with emphasis on the fact that we all have a responsibility to impact positive change in our community for sustainable peace and development.